Hey, hey, has anyone seen Tristan?
Tristan. Who's that? Oh. Is that
Hey
Tristan or
everyone,
is that an imposter?
It looks like
I'm
him.
back. How dare you? How dare you accuse me of not being myself?
He looks
This is
like
the
He just
Tristan.
same
looks a little.
exact
Is it a
haircut
haircut?
that
I
I
don't
had
know.
last week.
He looks like Tristan. He's got the knowledge of Tristan,
It's
but it
definitely me.
is in fact Tristan.
Nah,
We like the
something's off about
movie.
him.
We like the movie Dirty Pretty Things. Is that what we bonded over, Corey?
I don't know. Sounds like he
Oh
might be
no.
trying to rip you
He's a
off.
pod person,
Anya,
And
Tristan.
you were
Anya
Beast
into
Wars.
something. Yeah.
Uh,
No,
And
no, I'm
Jeff,
not
you
into
look
any such
like
thing.
we were
I'm
Boy
not some
Scouts.
nerd. Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah.
You're tugging at the heartstrings and the memory strings here.
No, I'm definitely myself. How would I not be myself?
I don't
How
know.
am I not myself? Anyway,
he's a bearded doppelganger.
we're here to talk about a podcast, right? Talk about movies from the 90s.
We're actually here for a PSA.
Got identity theft
Yeah, about
Yeah.
identity theft
in the
Well,
late
and
1900s.
fraud.
we picked the best possible movie to talk about for February 1993. We saw the film Summersby,
Yeah.
which is about identity theft in the films. It's definitely not
Yeah.
me. I'm definitely Tristan.
Remember, identity theft is okay if it's for love.
Yeah, right.
And for the benefit of the
Yeah.
whole town.
Jimmy, are you going to accept my love now that I'm back
Oh,
in
hey.
Well, he's not
No,
even
apartment?
Jimmy anymore. He's
no.
Jimbo.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
true.
Jimbo. I'm the
Yeah,
real
see
imposter.
So yeah, we like I said, we watched the movie Summersby, which I'm sure everyone remembers that's
Oh
watching
yeah.
this. I definitely knew other films that were coming out this month, but I completely have no knowledge of this. When we went through the year, Corey and I, to pick out what we were
Surprisingly,
going
it
to
was
talk
a
about.
box office bonanza. This
Yeah,
film.
it made what, like 120?
Yeah, worldwide. That's for back then.
Yeah,
Adjusted probably over three now.
right.
And
And it
Mm.
adult
immediately
dramas don't make
disappeared.
that.
Yeah. Coming out in February,
Right.
where there's a dearth of films. Quality
I guess
films,
for Valentine's Day, they'd probably capitalize on that.
which is weird because this love is insincere in a way.
Ersatz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sincerely
Well, the love
insincere.
is circumstantial and desperate at the
It's
same time.
probably that this is the only choice out in theaters for Valentine's Day, so that's why
Yeah.
it made money.
Fair.
That's
But
true.
yeah.
Well, if you're forced to
So
see a Richard Gere movie or nothing, you know.
yeah, I mean, honestly, that's, I think, the biggest reason it made any money. Like, let's put together the biggest star of the recent years, the star of Pretty Woman, whose bankability in romantic films is
Yeah.
at a high, and
Right.
put him with the star and recent two-time Oscar winner Jodie Foster, who also is probably bankable in romantic things.
Right.
So it makes sense on paper, and I think they
I
have
think
chemistry
I think they
nonetheless.
were testing the waters with her bankability on her romance on this one. To be honest,
Well,
like
We'll
she's
get
kind
into
of
that.
Listen,
she's a little dry.
yeah,
she's supposed to be a
Well,
southern lady.
what's the plot?
But yeah, let's do that. Let's
yeah.
talk
So
about
basically, Jack. What a simple name.
Yeah.
So
Jack
Jack comes
Summersby.
home. Jack, yeah, true. Jack comes home from the war, the American Civil War, and it's been 7 years. First, your math isn't wrong. He's been gone too long, but he was in a prisoner of war camp. So,
Or
it's
so
clear
he
that,
says.
right. It's clear that he lost a lot of weight. He looks a little different, but everyone's like, it's got to be Jack. It's just been a while. It's not like we have Facebook where we see his face all the time. So he's just aged,
Yeah.
right? So then he comes to his wife, who immediately accepts him, and everything sort of goes back to normal. But our problem that we think is that she has taken a new lover, played by Bill Pullman, and so is their normal life where she's moved on going to be upended, or is her normal life from before the war going to come back? And we think that's the only issue until it becomes very apparent that Jack is not Jack, and
Yeah.
little things are different.
It's
He
at
goes to
first
get-
subtle, and
Yeah,
then
he
it
goes-
starts picking up, and then you're like, something's off about this guy.
I
he
think
goes-
they blew it from the very beginning by having an extra shot
at the beginning, like the
at the
first
beginning
shot.
that kind of gave it away and didn't even foreshadow everything, kind of explained everything.
Yeah,
Kinda, but like the way I explained this to Tristan when we brought it up, that like the from the beginning and in the intro, so much time had passed that like you got lulled into this like, oh, old-timey Southern right after the Civil War, march home. So you kind of like, for me, like part of
you're
me just
literally walking from Pennsylvania or wherever he
yeah,
was being held.
yeah, but for me, like when I saw it, like I just thought like that was like, oh, symbolism, like the war is over, he's going home and he's burying his whatever. Didn't really think much about it. But
okay.
like until the red flags started coming up, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Something's up about this guy.
Yeah.
Did he
I was
murder a
like,
fella?
do you remember when he was burying someone, Jimmy? And he's like,
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
This movie very much reminded me of Passengers from a few years ago,
Oh.
which is on paper it might sound romantic, some of the things that are happening in this, but then when you think more about it, this was premeditated. He was researching this guy's life. He knows nuances and details. And
Yeah, this is
You spend 4
must have
years
had
in a
this
cell with
plan.
someone.
He must have had this planned way in advance to either kill Jack or something like that.
yeah.
Or at worst, it was his backup plan that he just naturally gained the training for. And he's like, well, I have nowhere else to go. I guess I'll go there. I'm sure she's hot.
Right.
What else do I have?
It's fine. I'll raise
I have
some
a
other
tin
guy's
photograph
kid.
of her not smiling, so she must be hot.
See, I read it as he was trying to not only escape his own life, but he was just trying to help the life of the man that he got to know for 4 years. I don't
Do you
think
think they liked each other?
I think they liked each other. I don't think he killed him. I think he just,
You think
See,
he
it's kind of
died?
murky because they kind of
died.
later on the trial that we have in like the latter half of the movie, it kind of portrays him as a violent man.
The real
But
Jack.
Yeah.
there's
Right.
no inclination of that before then.
Right.
In fact, he's
He
very
just had a
docile for
gambling. No,
most
I
of the
think
movie.
what it was is like he had a gambling and drinking problem, and it could because that was definitely a
Aggravate.
thing that he had before the war. So maybe he got more violent after the war on top of his like gambling addictions.
It's unclear which
Yeah.
is the issue.
Yeah,
Right.
he wasn't entirely a stand-up guy.
And the other issue is that Laurel, Jodie Foster's character, accepts him immediately, which you
Right.
can kind of see that happening because it's the time period. What would you do if a man came in and said he was your husband? And everyone in town accepts that. And women don't really have rights in 1867.
Or
So-
It's been a while. These photos are pretty grainy. You know.
Yeah.
Well, she says when she says she fell in love with him later in the film, I knew from the moment I saw you. So
Well, see, that was
what's the point then?
I feel like the movie could have maybe been a little more complex if they had made the Bill Pullman character more of a viable second option. But
Right.
instead, from the very beginning, he becomes whiny and petulant when Richard Gere comes
Yeah.
back. And then in order to really make you not like him, they reveal that he's a racist.
Yeah.
And White Knights of Camelot, right?
Yeah, I think that's the original name
not,
of the
not
KKK.
Camelot. It's something else, but
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you know,
Something
it's
like
But
it's the
Gren,
KKK,
yeah, the precursor at least.
right?
I felt like if they had made him more of a suitable replacement, then there would have been more of a drama.
Right.
But
It felt
because
like
they
he
made
was,
him clearly an asshole.
and he was very much just the only option in town worthwhile.
Yeah.
So, town's kind of sad. It was gonna fail no matter what.
Yeah.
So,
There's a whole
It doesn't.
subplot about land ownership that really feels like this movie's trying to kind of sugarcoat the situation right after the Civil War because
right.
Yeah,
There's
I got a bit of a white apologist movie vibe.
You
out
did,
of it, not
you
gonna
did, because
lie.
the Jack character is so amenable to people of all races and all credos, all colors.
Yeah,
Right.
but after he's
Frankie
you know,
Faison's like,
after he's gone,
can I have a piece of land for myself? He's like, by God, you will.
Why not?
Of course, why not? Why wouldn't you? I've
It's
only
like,
been
okay,
fighting
and
on
then-
the side of the Confederates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this
Then-
What?
Jack actually like sort of northern sympathizer? You don't
Yeah.
really know where he's from.
Right.
So yet. Yet. Would
Well,
that
well,
actually
Like,
happen?
it's
Years later, we
well,
got
not gonna lie, like we kind of pieced together that this takes place in Tennessee, and I know Tennessee, like there's a bit of history that like there was people that were like, abolitionists in that
Yeah.
state, even though it was a
Sure.
slave state. And then like it sounded like he was just kind of like a vagrant that would pose as things like a teacher and like swindle people. So
Yeah.
like maybe he was just like one of those, like he's kind of a
Yeah, whatever.
bad
One of
guy. He
those.
does bad
I'm a
things,
liberal
but he's not a
Johnny
bad.
Appleseed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He does bad things, but he's not a bad guy, more
Yeah.
or less.
Do it.
he's just
Say the
one,
line.
possibly he's one, possibly two guys, good guys in a bad situation.
Yes.
Damn
Can't come back from
it. Do the roar.
Gotta bring it in somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like they cut to a scene.
You're
where
welcome for the setup.
Everybody's harmoniously cooperating, plowing the fields. I'm just like, this is such
Yeah.
such an
I think
inaccurate
I think
portrait
we've
of
been
what was going on back
spoiled.
then.
Well, they wanted to get a PG-13 rating, so
Yeah. I
Right.
think we've also been spoiled with some realistic historical stuff in the last 20
Subsequent,
years.
yes.
And so at this point in time in 93, it's just a quaint period piece that happens to be set at this.
I
this
definitely got
period.
also there was that kind of a post-war happy ending counter vibe to Gone with the Wind, I think.
Also, I wanted to mention, did you know the original story that this is based off of, the French tale that was then made into a film in the, I think, 70s?
was it a tale? I thought that it was an actual legal case.
There was supposed to be a real
Hmm.
person named Martin Gere who came home from the Napoleonic Wars, and he said that he was Martin Gere, and this situation happened on its own in a village in France. And so then the trial came up like, are you a real person? And it's like, well, I helped this town get back on its feet. So then they were fine with him.
Right.
And it's like, who are we really? As long as you're not stealing from them and such. I mean, you stole an identity. Is that
Yeah, but you put it
need
to
a
good
place
use.
as well? Yeah, it's like the moralistic virtue of the man now compared to what he could have been, compared to who the person he took was. And so I think that's the point. And so when you're placing it in the Civil War in America, it's a little different feeling than Napoleon's time.
Right.
Yeah. Even though it was like about 30, 40 years after Napoleon.
Right.
So
Well, there's a lot more. I don't know where you'd be able to set this in America if it wasn't the Civil War.
Well, getting back to what Jimmy was saying earlier, I feel like Richard Gere is very anachronistic and stuff like this. And not only that, his accent's terrible, and he's very stiff. I think he's one of those actors that, as he's gone on, he's accrued like a gravitas, and he's a way better actor now, like starting with Chicago and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
back then, he was very like lightweight.
yeah, I think he was he was a very pretty boy
Well-
stage in his life. So like a lot of his performances was
Yeah.
due to the fact that like he probably had that that sexy glare that he could pull out of his a little toolbox of like acting.
The
Yeah,
smolder.
To be fair though,
smolder.
it also adds to the believability that he was a deserter, because he's way too clean to have been involved in
Yeah. Also,
the type
yeah,
of
if
battles
Richard
that
Gere,
everyone else was.
if Richard Gere showed up on your doorstep and you're like, I hated my husband, not that upset.
Basically.
Yeah. I think that's why they're asking the audience to forgive them for just being like, yeah, he's not a jack. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Jodie Foster? I thought she was all right.
I
I've
think
seen her
she's
do
really
better.
good in most things. In this, she's kind of because she's playing against a plank of wood.
Yeah.
She doesn't really get much to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She, I don't know. She's the southern lady who's trying to like basically use this situation to her advantage. She knows like as soon as he comes
You
back.
know what is why I
Yeah.
think her performance seemed a little dry is because like she's portraying reserved.
Yeah.
Her character is reserved. So like
I think
guess
she's good because of that.
She
yeah.
doesn't have much
So
agency of her own.
because she doesn't seem to like be bad as a character. It just seems a little dry, especially given the pacing of the movie at certain points.
It's a lot of
And her
psychological.
reaction tends to be tame a lot of the time,
Yeah,
or
it's-
tamer than it should be. So I guess
Like once
reserved, lady.
It could
type
also be
deal.
the
once
time
you
period.
realize what's going on, like you know that a lot of her performance is more psychological. Like she's processing all of this. Like, do I just, kick this guy to the curb and pretend like my husband actually did die, or do I take this newfound love interest to heart? And then he's also doing all these things for the town, but then he's
Yeah.
also on trial for murder. And it's like there's a lot going on in her head that you can't exactly articulate physically until the courtroom scene or whenever she's in, when they meet up in the jail cell or whatever, or whenever
That
they're
was actually a
private.
good scene.
Yeah.
That's the best scene in the movie.
The reason I bring this up, it reminds me that one of the writers, Sarah Carnochan, she had wanted to make a feminist power film, something where Jodie Foster could take the reins of her own situation. That's what she was quoted as for this script. So it's interesting to have it set in this time period where a lot of women didn't have agency. So it still came across as that she didn't really. She sort of just lets it happen. But I think you're right with what you say, Jeff. When at the trial, she guides everything by just coming clean. She forces everyone's hand and is sort of taking the reins. So I think that's where she gains her agency.
Right.
And especially with the other marginalized person in the room who happens to be a judge somehow in Tennessee,
Who's
James
that?
Earl Jones. So
Darth Vader himself.
I love
think
how like right
two
before the
work
trial
together.
begins, like he has his like a revolver ready just in case.
That is interesting. I kind of want to see the backstory of his character more than I want to see the rest of the film.
Yeah, you know what? I almost would have preferred maybe if the movie was just a strict courtroom drama.
Right.
I mean, the best
With
stuff
flashbacks, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go back and forth, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like,
Definitely cut out that first shot, but
yeah.
Yes. Unless the movie wanted you in on that from the beginning, but I felt like it was still supposed to be like a revelation at the end.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, James Earl Jones was brilliant. That whole courtroom scene was the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
And we got all of the other cameos that we have in this film. His other lawyer, Webb, was played by someone who later went on to just be like, he's like a go-to Western character in like Deadwood, all this other stuff.
Isn't he an old brother worth though?
Yeah. He's the guy Penelope marries.
You can't do that to my fiance.
So good in that.
It was also interesting to see R. Lee Ermey as a sidekick.
Yeah. He's
with
very
like
wiry.
Enough facial hair to make him look like a completely different human being altogether.
He should have been a gold prospector in the movie.
He like did not recognize him, but then when he spoke, I'm like, wait, hold up.
Yeah, Jimmy knew immediately. I was happy about that because I did not know he was going to look so different.
Eyebrows give it away too, man.
So I'm
but like the thing is, like the eyebrows give it away,
into it.
but like he didn't have that, like his like
gruff
marine stare. Like it was very lighthearted and like he just like
he's an underrated actor.
Yeah. He
It
got shoehorned in.
It goes to
after his
show
Oscar
how much
nomination.
acting goes in the eyes too, because like the way he like it just his face was like, yeah, he's too. That's not R. Lee Ermey. He's not grumpy enough.
This was he decided to play a nice guy for once. He's like, I'm tired of being a drill sergeant.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. He melted into the background that way. I wish he'd had more parts like this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
In the 90s, he had a few parts like that.
yeah, he's good in The Frighteners.
Switchback, he's really good.
Yeah.
But,
One thing about James Earl Jones, and this isn't really with the movie, I didn't realize he kind of just stopped after this. He did Gabriel's Fire, that TV show, but that was around this time and it was already over even. So he basically
of the Beloved
coasts on
Country?
that's 91 or 2. So everything
Yeah.
sort of ends around 93. He sort of coasts on his Darth Vader money. He does Broadway a little bit.
Yeah.
I got to see him actually back in
He was-
2013, I think it was. He was in The Best Man. But
He was also in
Sunset Limited.
2014 or 2015. He was in You Can't Take It With You.
that too, yeah. He did a
Yeah.
bunch of shows on Broadway. That's really what he did.
Oh, he's in
for his
Fences.
later life. Yeah, he did Fences.
Yeah.
And I think there was something else with Angela Lansbury. There's one other.
Yes.
No.
Sunrise at Campobello was his big debut. He was a butler of FDR's, and that's why now they renamed the Court Theater after him, because that was where
Oh, wow.
Sunrise at Campobello was, and that just happened back in December, I believe. Oh, September. Okay, I had it.
He was James Earl Jones in 2005 was in The Sandlot 2.
Uh-huh.
I did not know The Sandlot 2 was a thing.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
I've ignored it.
Excellent.
Yeah. But he was
but-
good here. I wanted more of him because he's basically a plot device.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because like, what you guys were saying before, I want to see his not origin story, but like more of his background, because like
Yeah.
I want a Summersby extended
his
universe.
station
Man.
his
Yeah.
station in that, just Isaac's, it's like a Summersby story.
Yeah.
He for someone like him to have that agency and that position at that time, like that is fascinating, to be like how he got to that point, and then to be in that courtroom at that exact moment, to
do a
have that
Summersby
interaction.
prequel.
What?
Right.
Let's do a Summersby prequel.
Let's
We'll
do
get
it.
a young black actor to be the young James Earl Jones.
Let's do it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's give away all our best ideas.
Oh.
Yeah, Anthony Mackie.
Yeah, you hear that, Hollywood?
Yeah.
Steal our ideas.
I'm sure this will be bankable. It'll go straight to like Plex or something.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So what do we want to wrap it up? What do we all think?
Yeah,
of it?
might as well.
No. Yeah.
I think I would probably give the movie a C. I think on the plausibility scale, it's very specious. And like you said, again, we're more enlightened now. We're more frank about the Civil War and everything, that the sentiments before and after that and during. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to fault the movie against that, but it does feel dated in that respect. And there's a lot of contrivances with the plot. And also, I feel like the suspense is completely eliminated by that first shot. And they don't seem to have much chemistry together. And maybe that's
Oh.
on purpose. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
yeah, I'm not. Around this time period, Richard Gere was not really a heavy hitter, in my opinion.
I'd give this movie a solid B. It was good. It was entertaining. It was a popcorn flick.
I'm gonna agree with Jimmy.
Yeah.
A B.
Mm.
The craftsmanship, the cinematography, the score was brilliant.
Score was
plot,
good.
The plot and the acting were a little convoluted.
No, this was Danny Elfman.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Doesn't have that weird Tim Burton tinkly noise.
I was gonna say, it shows how
Yeah.
versatile he could be.
Yeah.
Well, I think he only has that Tim Burton tinkliness when, like,
Tim
It's like
Burton
when your
wants it.
when
Tim Burton
when
wants it
your
and everything.
when your friend who knows you one way walks into the room, and you're like, oh, I got to start acting like this.
Yes.
No, I
Yeah,
enjoyed
yeah.
it.
Think I thought I liked it, but the more we talk about it, I realize I'd forgotten some stuff already.
Yeah.
I can't get the Simpsons episode out of my head. Had you actually all seen that? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Probably years ago.
The Prince and the Pauper came out in
Many episodes?
1998. It's like their 9th season, and it's quoted as being the episode that sort of is where the Simpsons jumps the shark. Basically this guy, played by Martin Sheen, comes into town. He's like this big gruff general, and he says he's the real Seymour Skinner.
Oh, I've seen that. Yes.
And
Oh yeah,
it makes
Yeah,
more
yeah.
sense, and no one seems to remember him. Everyone's apparently new enough that they missed him going off to the Vietnam War.
I do hate that, actually.
And then they have a trial. It's proven that he really is that. Agnes Skinner's like, yeah, I just accepted this new person as my son because I wanted someone to take care of, and he seemed like he needed it. And this real version of Skinner, the one that we all knew and loved, says he'll leave because he tricked everyone. And everyone's like, no, you should stay as well. We should have both of you. And then Martin Sheen's Skinner is like, no, I kind of feel like you're all assholes. I don't want to live in this town, and leaves. And everyone's like, guess it'll all pretty much be like it's back to normal, as if it never happened. And then it doesn't, and it's never brought up again except for one.
I thought they
reference.
tricked him to leave.
Sort of. Oh yeah. In the end,
like he ended up getting duped. They got rid of him because they wanted to keep their Skinner and not this.
Which
Skinner.
I think, which is actually worse. Yeah. But they reference it once later when Lisa names her cat Snowball 2, and Skinner's like, "Isn't that your first? Isn't that like the 6th cat you've named Snowball 2?" And she's like, "Are you sure about that? Whatever his real name is." So and he's like, "Touche," and leaves immediately.
Gotten real meta.
Yeah, I couldn't get that out of my head while watching this, so I think I might have to give it a C plus. So,
well, that's okay. One of Tristan's favorite movies came out this month to kind of ease the pain of this, which was Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey.
Oh yeah.
I myself more retained memories of the second movie, but Tristan could probably enlighten us on the first movie.
Well, you both have seen this as well, right? Jimmy and Jeff.
Homeward Bound?
Wee lad, I think.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
this watch it all the time.
This is what I don't tell people is my favorite movie, but I probably saw this as much as Jurassic Park, which is my favorite movie. You can have movies that are about as equal, but I watched this a ton as a kid because I love dogs. And so we got the VHS, and Mom and I would pop it in as soon as summer started. We'd watch it a couple times every summer when I was very young. Yeah. But it would always get me. It's a simple film about 3 pets are left at a kennel, and they think they're being given away or in jail, and they're like, we got to get home. We've been trapped. We got to escape. And they don't realize their humans are just going on vacation and trying to make sure the pets are well taken care of. And so they travel what seems like across country, but is probably just like 20 miles in California. But it's 2 dogs and a cat, and they're voiced by, is it Don Amici in the first one? Yeah, Don Amici in the first one. It's Ralph Waite in the second one, because in between the two, Don Amici passed away.
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox plays Chance, the lovable, what kind of dog is he?
Pitbull.
Pitbull, thank you. I blanked on the word. And then Sassy the cat's voiced by Sally Field. So that was my actual introduction to all 3 of those actors. But their owner is the guy who's in Airplane.
Robert Hayes,
yeah. And then he has, I don't know the actors, but they're like a generic family. They're all fun. They have 3 kids. Each of them are the pet's owners. Like the oldest kid is Shadow's.
Yeah. It's real neat that each kid got their own pet.
Yeah, and like the messy young
that family's got some money. No,
yeah, they do. They could have put their pets in a better kennel.
They could have,
or just had like the neighbor check in on the pets. Like it's not that big of a deal, but very goofy film because they're appealing to kids. But if you look past the goofiness of Chance, Michael J. Fox's dog, there's the heartfelt warmth of when your pet is getting a little old, and Shadow almost doesn't make it. So that always
almost traumatizing.
Up the tears. I know it's a simple film, but I loved it as a kid, so the nostalgia trumps like everything else for me.
You're a simple film.
This is one of the first movies where they tried to overlay a human's voice over a animal, because in Milo Notice they're narrating.
Yeah.
But they're like speaking almost telepathically to one another.
That's basically it, yeah.
This is one of the first movies to do that, right? I feel like
Yeah, and they'll have like reaction shots, like Chance's sassy. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sassy," and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
The animal trainer probably should have got like some sort of special award
Right.
for the performances because it's got to be difficult to do that.
It's definitely tricks you do with like food. You put the food up above, and they'll do something.
Yeah.
That is that reaction. You move your hand this way, and there's definitely training that goes into
Yeah.
that. So
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you get the camera angles just right, you could have the trainer just perfectly off screen, giving the dog the right command to do the right maneuver.
yeah.
Now you can see
Probably a lot of coordination involved, especially when they're doing a lot of it outdoors. Like, don't want you running off.
Yeah. I'm sure it's contained.
Like
I
it's
mean,
like there's an intern every 50 yards
Yeah.
just to make sure the dogs don't get away.
The
It's
one
like
I
the
worry
plague dogs
about.
they ran off.
One intern in the tree to make sure that if the cat gets up there, like they could get it down.
Sure.
It's like your job is to stay up
I
there in the
think-
tree, and also you're the boom operator.
I think the worry is more for the second one because they're in San Francisco, so that's a little more
Yeah.
dangerous for the pets with cars and
So
other vehicles.
Was this movie like a
Cars.
big hit or was it kind of a modest hit that did well on home video?
I think it did fine. It came out in third place, but I think it had a preview week the week before, so the number one week for it doesn't really lend it to be a hit, and it ended up making 41. That's not that great.
Yeah, but adjusted, that's probably like about 80 something.
Yeah, that's a modest hit in February,
The
and
budget's probably very small.
something for families. So
I don't think the golden retriever was asking for a payday with this one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't come out of his trailer.
Yeah. Speaking of debuts, a filmmaker from New Zealand had a huge debut this month, made its way overseas, called Dead Alive. Which is Peter Jackson's. I think he's made other movies in New Zealand, but I think this was the one that broke into the US.
Yeah, Meet the Feebles is before this, right?
Meet the Feebles before this, Bad Taste is before this.
Yeah.
But this was this is like his calling card, and it's very Sam Raimi-esque. Honestly, to me, I think the movie's a little too grotesque and disgusting. But I know it's beloved by genre fans. It's basically his take on like a virus zombie film. But the special effects are very gruesome. It's a horror comedy, which he was doing a lot of back then, and we just talked about The Frighteners not too long ago, which was probably the last one he did. I kind of wish he would go back to something smaller scale like that because he's doing all these huge projects now. So this almost seems like, as Tristan said, quaint compared to everything he does now. But I know, has anybody else seen the film?
I think this is the one I've seen. I think the only other one he had before this was Meet the Feebles. This is Brain Dead. It was called Brain Dead in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's got 2 titles.
This is fine if I remember, but the fact that I couldn't remember if this is the one I had seen tells you enough.
Right, yeah. Then we go to the movie that we just celebrated, the holiday not too long ago, Groundhog Day, the movie that split up Harold Ramis and Bill Murray for a little bit because they had a falling out on set, which is weird because knowing the production woes of the movie, it's a timeless classic. It's a great film. It doesn't translate on screen that they were having difficulties behind the camera, but
right. I found so many films that are huge hits like that you find out there's either it went perfectly or it's a miracle this movie happened.
Right.
So this is obviously the latter, but you all know I love this genre that
you like the time loop stuff.
Oh yeah. So.
And this is the forefather of all of that.
Yeah. I'm surprised there was never anything like this before that. I'm sure it was in
sci-fi
sci-fi novels, but maybe
there had to have been
a
like Twilight Zone episode on it.
Yeah.
There is, but nothing this big.
Right.
Nothing this succinct, so well done.
Also, probably nothing that balanced comedy and drama so well.
That's right. Yeah.
I think Andy McDowell's just adorable in this movie. Like I can understand why Bill Murray fell in love with her throughout the course of the film. And also the movie doesn't shy away from some of the darker aspects. Like For instance, there's a homeless man in the film, and there's a montage of him feeding him, trying to get him back up on his feet, but he dies every time. So
Yeah.
there's like this shadow of inevitability. No matter what he does, that's still going to be the result.
Right. It's
So
a
it's almost,
specific
I don't want to
date
say
he
it's
feels
nihilistic,
that.
but it's fatalistic in that.
Yeah, like
sure.
I think part of his like goes into part of his journey is like you don't have control of everything. You're not God. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to like let things go and accept things for what they are. Because like in a way, like looping around like that, like in a way you feel like you are God because like you can't like you could do whatever you want and get
He
away
even
with
says that
get
one
away
point in
with
the
it.
film.
Mhm.
But then like you can't save somebody.
Right.
But then like maybe like the best thing that you can do is to change yourself to be a better person and you make the world a better place.
Mhm.
Yeah, like he becomes basically
So
like the
yeah, and it's
equivalent
sort
of
of
God.
like so saying like with the bum, like, yeah, sure it's fatalistic that like you can't save somebody, but like you could still do some good. It's like when
Can't
somebody's
save
telling
everybody, but you can save
yeah,
somebody.
Mhm.
Right.
exactly.
This
Yeah.
this is definitely one of my favorites. I have a list, of course I do, of all my favorite movies. So I don't know if this is in my top 10, but I was going to reorder everything and see where things land now, and this might end up in my top 10. So 93 is a year that has at least 4 films that are probably in my top 10. So we'll get to those a little later. One's in June, one's in December. So, but February has 2 of them. So,
isn't that crazy?
yeah.
Also a movie that probably we'll gloss over this pretty fast. There's a movie called The Temp that came out, which Tom Holland, the writer of Child's Play and Fright Night wrote, which on the surface sounds like kind of like an erotic pot boiler, but it's Timothy Hutton's character gets this new secretary played by Lara Flynn Boyle, and she starts making machinations to move up the corporate ladder. And you think he's gonna do all the stupid things that some of these male protagonists do in these other movies, but he doesn't. It's actually, the movie's actually a lot more shrewd. I was surprised. It was actually surprisingly good.
Okay. See, there could have
That's
been
an
a hidden
underrated.
gem. What do
There
you
we
know?
go.
Yeah,
Who
you never
knew?
you never
knew?
know. You can't know 12 months in advance sometimes. So
Right.
we do our best.
The third part of the Evil Dead trilogy came out this month, which was originally called Medieval Dead, but then was retitled by Dino De Laurentiis to be Army of Darkness, which is a worse title in my opinion because you have no idea what that is. Which is probably why the movie tanked. I've seen 2 versions of the film. I've seen the theatrical cut and I've seen the director's cut. In my opinion, the director's cut is better because I always thought the theatrical leaned way too much into the screwball comedy because these movies go through an evolution. Like the first one's almost strictly horror. The second one's got a nice balance of the two, comedy and horror, and then the third one was just outright slapstick. I think the director's cut, especially with the alternative ending, doesn't lean too far into the Three Stooges, pratfalls, and stuff like that.
Okay.
But
I've only seen the first Evil Dead, so
well, you'll see if you watch the other ones, and especially the TV show, at least the first season, you'll see like the evolution of the Ash character, which is why with this upcoming reboot, whatever you want to call it, I feel like they're really straying away from anything resembling Evil Dead, other than the Deadites and the Necronomicon. It could have been any generic possession movie. The linchpin is Bruce Campbell. You can't make one of these movies without Bruce Campbell. It's pointless.
Yeah.
I
remember loving all 3 of them.
Oh, there you go. See?
But
and the first season of Ash vs. Evil Dead is fantastic.
Nice.
And then Joel Schumacher, who passed away not too long ago, made one of his best movies in my opinion. I think it's in most people's opinion, Falling Down.
Oh, right.
Which has got a fantastic performance by Michael Douglas. And actually, I know people use this term a lot, but it might be more relevant today than it was back then. Because he plays he plays like a worker drone who's just kind of fed up with everyday annoyances. He's cut off in traffic. At one point, he goes to get breakfast at a fast food restaurant. They tell him to cut off. It's almost it's a social satire at the same time as being like a thriller. And Michael Douglas is fantastic in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It even has that cliche of the cop with his last day on the job.
Oh boy.
Robert Duvall. But because it's Robert Duvall, he adds dimension to it.
Ooh, I didn't know Robert Duvall was in it.
Oh yeah. I think Joel Schumacher was really good with these blue collar thrillers, which I wish he did more of between this and like 8mm.
Well,
He kind of got sucked up into the Hollywood system with like those Batman sequels and stuff like that. But
he probably wanted to do both.
he does balance both. He's the definition of like a work for hire director because he'll do a one for them, one for me thing. Because he'll put out like Phone Booth, which was surprisingly pretty good, but then he'll do Veronica Guerin within like the same time period.
Mm.
But this is definitely, in my opinion, one of his better movies.
I got to see it now. I keep putting it off.
If you like Michael Douglas, you'll love it.
Yeah. I like Duvall too, so there's another reason for me to check it out finally.
So that brings us to Poster Boy.
Ooh, look at this. Very excited about this, Jeff.
Oh boy.
So the first one, I apologize. I think you know this film. So we'll see if you
We'll find out.
We'll see how big a fan you are.
Yeah. I left the title in or the quote in because I figured you'd know this right off the bat.
No, you can continue.
This was in your top 5 for 92.
Exactly. So
you know what this is.
I do know what this is, but I'm gonna play the game anyway.
Okay.
So,
Okay, cool.
all right. So the poster is you're on a long country road, and there's a dude walking down the road, right down the middle, down the yellow line, with a guitar case in one hand and a gun in the other. And there's a turtle crossing the road, which, if I recall correctly, the turtle plays a bit of an important part.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember.
So the reason
Maybe I might not be
used
recalling
this was because when we went through the films for 93, we noticed that this was actually in February. We think that it was in 92 for festivals. So
Yeah,
we're wondering if maybe you
probably.
saw that and thought it was a 92 film.
That probably was what it was, because I was looking up like what movies came out in 92, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I remember that one.
So twice you had films you hadn't. I thought you hadn't seen it, so we were gonna call you out, but obviously you know the film better than I do. I've never seen it, so
I mean, kind of, because I only watched it after I read the director's book. But
fine.
yeah, so you don't see the top half of the person walking down the road, but the tagline, with a guitar in his hand and a price on his head, he wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble came looking for him. The remarkable debut film from director Robert Rodriguez, because this is El Mariachi.
Nice.
yeah. For some reason, when I went to edit it, it made the tagline blurry, so I apologize.
Is this your
worries.
favorite of the 3, Jeff?
No, because I can't remember which other 2 movies.
It's
Is
Desperado
Desperado?
and
Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
yeah,
I remember Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I don't think I saw Desperado.
Oh,
that's
my
funny.
favorite.
That's the most popular one.
Yeah, I love that one.
You proved me wrong.
Lulling me
well.
into
I'm
a
gonna-
small sense of a false sense of security.
I'm going to give you a couple of points for that since you actually did see El Mariachi. So this is our actual February 93 film.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. So it's a white poster with 2 presumably cops, white guy and a black guy, looking back at the camera while aiming revolvers at a shooting gallery target who is covering both their head and genital area. Clearly a comedy. These 2
Now it's a kitchen sink drama.
gentlemen of ill repute don't
Yeah.
know what they're doing. It's kind of like a precursor to the other guys. I'm going to guess these actors. I think the guy on the left is Charlie Sheen.
Ooh.
or Christian Slater, judging by the
Ooh.
hair.
I
So
think
close.
Guy on the
That
right.
gets
Jimmy
half a
knows
point.
what this is, right?
Guy on the right. I can't remember his name, but it's gonna. No, not Danny Glover, is it?
Well, what do you
No.
think this is parodying?
I feel like this is probably parodying. Well, no, because Naked Gun is spy movies.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably a Miami Vice ripoff.
You want a little
Yeah, too
off.
far. Okay, hang
You
on.
kind of had half of the people in a way.
Yeah.
You need to be a little more
This is like
lethal
a-
with your decision making.
Is it a Rush Hour
Jimmy,
thing?
you know what this is? I'm guessing.
Maybe.
I think
Hey,
Jimmy. knows.
Jimmy, what'd you say? What was your?
No,
No, nothing. You need to weaponize your brain, man.
Oh,
Oh
he
my
knows
God.
what this is.
Yeah.
Geniuses? I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a tagline because you got some
Okay.
interesting comments.
Oh my God, they have guns.
What a stupid tagline.
There's an okay one at the bottom.
The
They got a
jet,
little.
the cleanup crew.
Do you want to tell him what this is kind of influenced by?
See it before they make the sequel.
Yeah,
That's what it says on the bottom. Oh
that
boy,
gives you a couple of clues for what the title is, but you
it does.
sort of
This
hinted
Police
at it.
Academy.
No, you sort of hinted at this from mentioning Danny Glover. That's not Danny Glover, but he's playing a caricature of Danny Glover.
Right. Okay. So
From Lethal Weapon.
from Lethal Weapon.
Right.
Right.
So what would you name a Naked Gun-esque parody of Lethal Weapon?
Bullet holes.
Bullet holes. Okay.
Should we let Jimmy do the title? Because he
Yeah,
seems
it's after the people, so
Yeah.
not really a comedic actor. That's I think your guys' problem. He
Dennis
can
Quaid?
be. He tries to be comedic, but he's never outright a funny person. He can be funny in films.
I've seen him in comedies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have I missed them?
apparently.
Maybe I'm just forgetting them. But you were very close, Jeff, on the left person. You're
Wait,
so close.
Wait.
Almost like by
That's not-
blood.
It's not Samuel L. Jackson, is it?
Hey.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, then I don't know this movie.
And so if you thought that was Charlie Sheen, who could you get for like discount Charlie Sheen?
Hey.
I know.
His brother?
No,
No.
It's Emilio Estevez and Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
Yes.
I don't know this movie at all.
Do you want to
Wow.
guess, Jimmy?
No?
Like, do you want to try a title? I actually like bullet holes. That's fine. It's probably better than this.
Deadly
Stray
Force?
bullets.
Stupid
Stray
title.
bullets, I think would have been.
Yeah, stray bullets. That's fine.
Yeah.
Still sounds like a better title.
Yeah. What would you call it, Jimmy? We never had
Deadly
you
Force.
Armed and
Yeah.
dangerous.
on an
Deadly
actual
Force.
movie. So it's so much simpler than that.
Cops.
It's just National Lampoons.
Oh God.
Which they just slapped that title on anything. Then.
Loaded weapon.
Loaded weapon.
Weapon 1.
That's why they do the see it before the sequel.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
It's a
This looks funny on paper.
ooh, it's not. It's really bad.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? It's like the scattergun effect of comedy. Like we'll do jokes in the foreground and the background. Every line will be a joke, and the ratio of hits to misses is like maybe 1 out of every 100 jokes hits. It's
Oof.
terrible.
There's a reason we haven't heard of this.
Yeah, there's a reason this thing fell into obscurity. It's also not it's not a Zucker Brothers movie, which they always know how to space out the jokes or make them more elaborate, and at least make the punchlines not too predictable.
Back then, at least.
Which is it's funny
They
that
got
you
worse.
said you thought that was Charlie Sheen because Charlie Sheen has a cameo in this as a valet, and he's giving nothing funny to say.
The parody special.
Shame because Emilio Estevez is a funny guy. You don't think so? Mighty Ducks, man.
No, I think he's good. I like him a lot. I just knew this was a bad film. So I was making a joke about him being discount. I'm actually really upset because he's in Mission Impossible and then just disappears, essentially. He makes Bobby as a director, and then he has that Walk movie.
He directed that too.
So I had put this to you guys in our notes, but we never actually discussed who we would want to do for picks of the month. I can't remember, but I don't think we did picks for Richard Gere when we did Pretty Woman back in 1990. So we could do.
We had
Richard
3
Gere.
movies that month.
Right. I think we did Sean Connery because Hunt for Red October was at that time.
Right.
We could have done comic book movie. I keep forgetting to look back at the March 1990 episode. So we could do Richard Gere. We could go with Jodie Foster, or I actually think it would be fun to go with Bill Pullman. I looked at their
Ooh.
filmographies. And
Let's go with Bill
Bill
Pullman because he kind
I
of like
knew.
he got the villain role, but like
Yeah. I gotta pull up his filmography again
Yeah,
because I wasn't sure
what?
who you guys would go.
I got 2 choices,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna pick the other one.
Uh-huh.
I got it. He doesn't have to be the lead, right? Because he wasn't the lead in a lot of this stuff.
No, especially his debut is amazing. Ruthless
You
People.
know what? Ruthless People. Which was
Oh.
directed by, I think, it was directed by the Zucker brothers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's fantastic at playing an idiot.
Yeah. He's phenomenal in that. A wonderful debut.
Yeah,
He had actually been, and this gives me the opportunity to bring this up. He had been a stage actor a little bit, and then he ended up teaching in Montana State University. And he was just kind of, quote, floundering, and he would do like local theater stuff. And his students insisted, you got to try out for something, like find a film in New York again and just audition. And he got Ruthless People. And so thanks to his students, he was like a 28-year-old. So he got his chance and he made it.
Yeah, because right after that, he did Spaceballs.
Mm-hmm. So there you go.
God.
Reach for your dreams. Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
I'm
I've
going to
got-
go. Oh, do you want to go? Go
No,
ahead.
no, no. You can go because
Okay.
I think you and I are going to choose similar
Choose the
ones.
same. Okay.
It's going to
I
come down
wanna-
to me and Jimmy picking the same damn movies.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's why I said I'm gonna go last.
I'm going to
Oh,
go
yeah.
While You Were Sleeping, which is
Yeah.
maybe
Oh.
my favorite romantic comedy. It's either that or Notting Hill. Let's move on. He's charming in that. He's a delight. While
I
You're
could be
Sleeping.
charming. I could be
He's
a
the
delight.
brother, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I think his name is Jack in that, actually.
What a generic.
I know.
Okay.
But basically, Peter Gallagher falls asleep. He goes into a coma trying to save. Someone's being mugged on the
What a
L in
heartwarming
Chicago.
tale for a romantic comedy.
I know. So he's
Very
saving
shy,
a
bro.
woman from getting mugged. He gets knocked onto the train tracks. Sandra Bullock, a token attendant on the L, by the way. So this places it squarely in 95. Jumps onto the tracks and saves him, but he's in a coma. And so she, being a creepy person,
Again,
and-
how's this a romantic comedy?
ends up lying and saying that she is his fiance because the family is just like, oh, you must be his fiance. We haven't met her yet.
It's kind of like Overboard in a way.
So like
Doesn't make any sense.
Summersby.
Hey, look at that.
And guess who she
Full
falls in
circle.
love with? She falls in love with that guy's brother, played by Bill Pullman. So if only Summersby had a brother.
Yeah.
Right.
It'd be a good
That
film.
we know of.
So what do you think of Jeff?
All right. Other than Independence Day, because that's an obvious one. In my brain, there's tied two.
Hmm.
Spaceballs
Mm-hmm.
and Casper.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is a good choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
So what do you think? What are you thinking then?
Is that
'Cause
because
it
of
looks
his
like-
ghost face?
I think if we're going toward like the lesser known ones, Casper. Lesser appreciated performances, I mean.
Nice.
And maybe because I was nostalgic because I saw it when I was a kid. That was the first movie I remember being super impatient about why isn't this out on video yet?
Mm. Mm.
That was back when they would wait 9 months.
Well,
Yeah.
Not anymore.
I'm gonna be anticlimactic and go with like the obvious choices of, and I'm gonna be greedy about this. Both Independence Day and Spaceballs. I loved them both, and
Well,
like
I
I loved
can't-
them in both of them.
I can't fit it on the graphic, so I'm
Gotta
gonna
pick
give
one.
you Spaceballs because it's shorter.
Wait, what? What? Yeah, you're right.
ID4.
Also-
Which one do you like more? Because I like Spaceballs
Well,
myself more.
if it's straight Bill Pullman performance, Spaceballs, because there's more of him in that.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas Independence Day, I'll say, is a better movie because like it's a serious sci-fi, and I like serious sci-fi.
I think
even
he's
though-
my favorite part of Independence Day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a great run right in the mid 90s. So right after this, he does Sleepless in Seattle as the oblivious fiance of Meg Ryan as she's falling in love with a voice across the country. And then he
Hanks.
hits it out of the park with While You Were Sleeping. And then he does Independence Day. So
Yeah.
it's weird that he had that like jump right off the bat with Spaceballs and
He's in a lot of love triangles.
Ruthless People, but then comes back with the mid 90s. So yeah, he's in a lot of love triangles. Yeah, there's a lot of good things. Then he kind of slips away at the end of the 90s. You know, one good thing that's underrated. Have you ever seen Igby Goes Down?
Great movie.
That's an underrated gem that I'd
That
recommend.
would have been
and
maybe top three.
It actually defines something that I had not ever thought about for myself. But Bill Pullman's character has seasonal affective disorder. Is that how it is?
Sad.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, that's why I'm sad every winter. I'm Bill Pullman and Igby Goes Down. Okay.
He's got more than that in that movie.
He does. He does. But every winter I think of Bill Pullman because Igby Goes Down. I'm like, oh. All right. Well, we had 4 good choices, I think. So
Yeah, so
very proud of us.
Yeah. Next month, since we talked about Bill Murray has 2 movies back to back.
Yep.
Yeah, Groundhog Day this month, and then next month there's a bit of a role reversal where he's in. You can't really see that.
Yeah, your background's taking it away.
God damn it. Mad Dog and Glory, where the roles are reversed. He's a gangster, and Robert De Niro is the mild-mannered police detective.
Yeah, good film. Corey insisted on showing this to me in college, so it's a good connective tissue between the two of us. And I haven't seen it since then, so I don't think you two have seen it before, right?
No.
So I think this is a good hidden gem for us to talk about. So I'm very excited about bringing this up, especially because it's our patron saint, Bill Murray.
Yeah, we've talked about him quite a bit.
Yeah, at least for the first 4 years. So
after this, we probably won't be talking about him much more.
Yeah, there's a bad film he does a little later that's actually directed by Summersby's director, John Emile.
Yes.
The Man Who Knew Too Little, which itself is a parody of The Man Who Knew Too Much and other spy films, and not a good one.
No.
So to bring it full circle.
It happens.
Yeah.
Good
So
time.
yeah, we'll check you out next month for a little more serious film, but it's a little more serious. This film this film's a joke, is why I said that, I guess. Anyway, we'll catch you next month. I'm glad you guys believe that it's the real me.
Never did.
Wow.